Hello, my name is Bret, and I have been a member of Southminster Presbyterian Church since 1994. My story of God's light in my life is really a life journey. This is a journey filled with God hints, or as I have also heard them called, God winks. But in my case, I would call them God smacks. And as I recall, quite painful at times. First, I must say that I was not raised in the church. The idea of God wasn't even in my world of comprehension until I was nearly an adult. My journey begins at a very early age, approximately 18 months. As my mother tells the story, the family was driving up to the farm where she grew up. I was the middle of 3 boys. At that time, 4 years, 1.5, and 6 months. Mom got us out of the car, and as I was known to do, I took off. Snakes were common on the farm, and over the years I gained much experience with them. On this occasion, Mom says that I stepped right over a baby rattlesnake that didn't strike me. Smack number 1. Moving forward a few years now, at around the age of 7, I was in a phase of loving cowboy boots. I also loved climbing trees. We had a lot of trees around our house. Climbing trees and wearing cowboy boots do not go well together. I remember climbing a medium tall pine tree, and as I got near the top, I slipped. I proceeded to bounce down the tree from branch to branch, much like a pinball machine, and then hearing a big thump as I landed at the bottom. I couldn't decide when I landed if I should cry because of the pain of bouncing from branch to branch, or if I should laugh because of how I must have looked while bouncing from branch to branch. Smack number 2. In my small town along the Potlatch Creek, my family lived up on a hillside. One of my classmates lived about halfway up the hillside. One day, as I was walking home, I saw them drive by and turn to go up the hill to their house. For some reason, I decided it would be a good idea for me to race them up the hill. Little boys like to do that as well. I started to run across the street, and to my surprise, a small blue pickup truck went roaring by. The side mirror brushed my arm, and I did this 360-degree pirouette in the middle of the road. I was fine, but startled, but only if one more step, things would have been different. Smack number 3. At around the age of 11, I was at a house that had been moved from one location to its current and put on a foundation. It was empty and an older home. My classmate and my best friend at the time, we were there and we were upstairs exploring the house. We were going from room to room as you would do, and at one of the rooms, as I opened the door, I saw something across the room that must have been a toy or some such thing, and I decided I needed to get to it before my friend did. I took off running, and then the next thing I know, I was in the basement. Now, at this point, there were a few miracles that occurred. The first being that the rug that had been put there to cover the chimney hole that was underneath it from allowing rain through, I stepped on it as I was running across the room, and that rug protected me from the nails sticking out the sides of the chimney hole at both the 3rd level where I was and at the 2nd level. And then the second miracle really was that of the women on the 2nd level as they saw me go falling by them, and then I landed in the basement on a pile of dirt and kind of knocked the wind out of me. But I remember looking back, and there was a extension ladder that went from the basement to the 2nd floor. And what I remember, and this is really the second miracle that occurred there, was one of the women, the owner, came running down that extension ladder forward and not missing a step. I'll never forget that for as long as I live. So those were the 2 miracles that occurred with that incident. I was protected by the nails, barely got a scratch on me. I didn't break any bones, just had the wind knocked out of me. Now, to speed this up a little bit, I'm going to shorten the stories moving forward. But at the age of 15, I had purchased a new 10-speed bike. For some reason, I thought I needed a bike. And I remember after school one day going down to my parents' store and with the bike, and I told them I was going to go riding and down the back alley and back. And I did. I took off, and I was riding the bike, and I was picking up speed, and I looked up, and there was my classmate in his car who was pulling into where his grandparents worked, and he stopped right in the middle of the road. And I T-boned him right in the driver's side door. I flew over the vehicle and kind of did a somersault on the other side and literally came up to my feet. And I stood there kind of shaken. Some people came out of the business and asked if I was okay. I said yes. Looked at my bike. It was destroyed. Picked it up, threw it over my shoulder, and walked back to my parents' store. Now, not too much. The following year, when I turned 16, I had worked for a farmer that summer and earned $500, doing farm chores and different things like that. And I used that money to purchase a new motorcycle. I had one, but I wanted one that I could race going forward, and so I purchased a new Honda MR175. It was also red. No more than 2 weeks after I got that motorcycle, it was the first day of football practice my junior year in high school. I was going to be one of the starting running backs for the team that year. First day of football practice, I decided I was going to kill some time by strapping my rifle, my .22 over my shoulder, and go for a ride up and hunt some squirrels, visit my grandparents, and then end up back home ready for football practice in the afternoon. Well, it didn't go quite that way. I got up the hill, and then I was moving slowly. I was only riding the bike about 35 miles an hour. Normally, I was going much faster than that. And then I proceeded to come around a blind corner, and all of a sudden I hear a roar, I see dust, gas tank explodes, and I'm flying through the air. I realized after I had landed and I looked back and the driver was running up that it was somebody I knew. And that motorcycle wreck resulted in a knee injury and an Achilles heel injury. No football that year. Godsmack number 4. Now, moving forward a few years, that was my junior year in high school. Now going to my junior year in college. Same, my parents had purchased me a new vehicle to go to college. It was a 1979 Mustang, red. My favorite color is red, as you can tell. And my junior year in college, I was leaving to go home for Thanksgiving holiday, and I got 5 blocks from the college, and a woman ran a red light, and then I struck her in the rear end. Now, my car was just slightly damaged, and so I was able to continue my trip up north. And I would travel Highway 95 going up north, and one of the more famous grades up there is the Whitebird Hill, which is more of a newer grade. And anyway, I was going up the grade, and I got near the top, and it was snowing, and the road was slick, but I wasn't going super fast. I was just near the top, ready to come over the top, and I lost control, and I spun around backwards, and I ended up in the other lane, facing back towards the direction I just come. And my car died, and I proceeded to start the car, and I was near the top of the hill, so I didn't want anybody coming over the top. Finally got it started, turned around, and just barely got it turned around and started to come over the hill, and here came a semi-truck. There is no way that truck could have stopped before it would have hit me. So that was a major Godsmack there. So, to say the least, I do not own anything red anymore. I've had bad experiences with vehicles red. So, no more red for me. Now I'm going to bounce ahead a little bit to much later, to 1997. I was coming back from, I had a new job, and I just had it for a month, and I was an outside sales guy, and I was doing a lot of driving. I was on my way back from Winnemucca over by Karcher Mall, And I nearly ran into the vehicle in front of me because cars were backed up, probably 50 cars were backed up at a stoplight for some reason, and I didn't realize it and nearly hit him. Well, the pickup truck behind me didn't stop quick enough and rear-ended me. I didn't think at the time that I was hurt. 2 weeks later, the headaches started, severe headaches over on the back side of my, left side of my head, and it just was debilitating. I would be driving and I'd get to my destination at the end of the day and I couldn't move. Literally couldn't move. I couldn't move my head left or right. I couldn't even concentrate. The pain was so bad. And I had gone over the years to chiropractors and doctors and had x-rays and nobody could find anything. Chiropractors I'd get maybe 24 hours of relief and then it would all come back. And I was living off of Excedrin PM and tension headache medicine. And then in 2004, so this is 7 years later, and after 4 more rear-enders, not nearly as bad as that one, but still rear-enders, I was at judo practice one night and we were practicing chokes. Now, the young girl that I was practicing with, you know, as instructors, we teach them how to do the chokes properly so you don't injure, and this particular choke was dangerous if done incorrectly. And we teach not to do it this way and to do it this way and this and that. And anyway, I was sitting there and she was coming up behind me and she got in position and she started to apply the choke and she did exactly what she wasn't supposed to. She did it this way and she did it the wrong that way, and then as a result my neck popped very loudly. She proceeded to panic a little bit and fanning herself, and I'm kind of moving my neck around a little bit, and I'm thinking, Cammie, that was her name, I said, I think this might have been a good thing. And I almost immediately noticed my headache started to go away. And within probably 5 or 6 days, my headaches were totally gone. Unbelievable. Godsmack. Also, God can giveth, and he can taketh away. Kind of how I was looking at it. Now, at this point, with the 4 rear-enders in 6 years, you know, those are kind of getting me up to Godsmack's 9, 10, 11, and 12, so God is still trying to get a message across to me, and I'm being stubborn, to say the least. Now in October, moving closer to the current time frame, in October of 2014, while getting a checkup with my doctor, he notices that I have a heart murmur. He said, not serious. You've actually had it for a couple of years, and I've just been watching it. And but that's all we can do right now is watch it. A lot of people have them, and they usually turn out to be nothing. So we're just going to continue to watch it. And I said, great. Well, over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, I was really having a hard time catching my breath when I'm doing work around the church and at home and at judo practice. It was really hard for me to exert myself, and then I would not catch. I'd feel like I'd run a marathon. So I went back to the doctor and I told him what I was experiencing, and he did a test, a stress test, and I passed it. A couple of months go by and I go to my doctor again. I says, you know, it's just, something's just not right. I just can't catch my breath. So he gives me a stress test with an echo, and I passed it. And he said, Bret, you know, the symptoms aren't matching what we're seeing on the tests, so I want to do one more test. It's an angiogram with the dye. And I said, sure. So we scheduled that, and I went in October of 2015, and they did the angiogram, and it was a very cold room, strapped me down. They went in through my arm. They gave me a slight sedative, but I was awake the whole time. After it was all done, they took me into the recovery room, and I'm laying there drinking and eating some food that they gave me, and in walks my doctor, my heart doctor, a heart surgeon, and a physician's assistant. And I won't repeat here what I said under my breath, but they proceeded to tell me that I had 3 blockages, one of them being the widowmaker, which would have killed me pretty much at any time. And they also discovered that my aortic valve was a lot worse than they had thought. So they needed to go in and do a triple bypass and replace my aortic valve. I told them I needed to go home and talk to my wife, and I wanted time to kind of think about this a little bit. But we came back in and looked at some slides of my test and pretty much decided that I needed to get in as quickly as possible. And so on October 23rd, 2015, I went in for surgery, went in at 7 o'clock on a Friday, woke up on a Thursday. Evidently, I had the surgery that was scheduled for 5 or 6 hours went a total of 11 hours. They had some issues getting the bypasses done on my heart, having to come in from the backside, as well as that night of my surgery, I am told that I had a little bit of an argument with the heart-lung machine, which was a little scary. I, of course, slept through the whole thing. So that was the biggest Godsmack of all. And I kind of finally realized that, and I kind of said to myself, okay, God, I hear you, finally. And I thank God every day for my guardian angels, for I must have had them, because you couldn't go through and survive all the things that I went through without having a guardian angel. And it was then, and reflecting back on all these instances, and these aren't all of them, these are just the ones that kind of stood out, that He has been with me since I was a toddler. Even though I didn't know Him, He was with me. So to finish this up, I'm sure that many of you can recite similar stories in your life. My sincerest wish is for everyone not to be as stubborn as I was. Please take the time to sit back, open your mind, open your ears, and more importantly, open your heart to truly hear God. Thank you.